So between this video and the last one, we'd added on the whole of the last section of being in the train. We did most of it fairly quickly and just kind of got it all out because we knew that as soon as we got it, it would be quite easy to change and adapt it to make it better. So in our first full run, for the most part, the whole beginning section is the same. We haven't really changed anything at all. The only thing we slightly changed was when I messed up because I didn't know where I was going, so I got my arms got caught in Joel's legs, which meant that he couldn't move properly. In the bit during the train station, so when all of us are walking around, we haven't got our music in the background yet that we'd already decided, and the voiceovers that are in the script. So I think once we got that, it'll look a lot better, because just watching it through, it seems quite slow and quite boring. So, and it's meant to be quite fast-paced, because obviously it's about Christopher and how he can't deal with that kind of environment because it's so fast and he doesn't know what's going on. So obviously I think we need to get that a lot better. And then the next thing that we changed was here, because before we had it where just after this section he did 3 lots of movements around the stage, but we changed it instead, so we only had one and it was a flip right at the front, but we made sure that we'd all stay on one side so you could see him at all times, and I think it works a lot better because it still allows him to have that kind of like in his mind thing for the audience, but it also doesn't go on for too long that you don't kind of get bored of them, because what we had before was the 3 movements around the stage, but I feel like it doesn't work as well that way, like with the 3 movements, because it went on for so long, and as an audience member, after you'd seen the first 1 or 2, especially with him being blocked all the time, you just kind of zone out. And because we made our 3rd one like the best one and it got them into place and everything, I feel like a lot of the audience members kind of zone out at that point, so we decided to just keep it to the 1, make sure you could be seen at all times from any part of the audience, and it works a lot better, I feel. Just after, because it was one of the first times we ran through that, not many of us really knew where we were going, so we just kind of stood around for a little bit, kind of waiting until someone would remember. So I think we need to go over that a lot more, just so that we all know what we're doing and can do it and make it a lot smoother. So there's this bit here that I'll just play with sound that I feel like Joel playing Christopher needs to adapt a little bit. So in that, the "You're too old" and "You're too old to play a policeman" I feel like is meant to be Christopher coming out of the play, because at the end of the play Siobhan says, and we made it into a play and made it very kind of breaking the 4th wall of the play, so I feel like this needs to be part of it as well. So his vocal tone needs to change between "You're too old to play a policeman" and then when he shouts "no", whereas it feels like it's all part of the same thought, and it's not really him coming out of the play to state that. Especially when you watch clips of the real thing that was put on, you can very much tell when the person playing Christopher kind of comes out of his role within the play, I guess, and it makes it look a lot more effective, and it makes it make more sense at the end. When they nod towards the fact that this is a play being put on with the character Christopher playing his character. It's very much meta theatre within itself, because it knows it's a play and they know they're being put on, and he's stating that the person playing the policeman's too old in his mind, because also in the character list at the beginning, the person playing the policeman is meant to play the old men throughout the play. So I feel like we definitely need to change that so it makes more sense to the audience watching. After that, we haven't really adapted anything in between that. and the train station, mainly because we wanted to get on with doing as much as we can in the train station so we can get it all finished and go over it afterwards to make it better. So the start of it is about here. So here we are coming on to put the chairs on for the station. Eventually that stick will change and there'll be a light on the end of it when we eventually get around to doing the tech. But I think this transition is very messy, especially because here people had to go on and get chairs from different places. None of us really knew what we're doing, so I think we definitely need to work on that. And I guess because it's a transition, we were thinking about making it a blackout, but I feel like to take full advantage of the style we're doing it in, we should probably do it in more of a frantic style. And that's also the feedback that we got after we showed it. And watching it back, I can see that, because it is a bit boring to watch and it feels kind of unprofessional in the way we do it. So here as well, I feel like that lift, because it's kind of coming out of Christopher's mind, or going into Christopher's mind, how he feels. I think we should slow that down, maybe add a bit of music effect to it, or some lighting if we eventually get around to doing the tech, or how I'd want to do it if we were able to, is as we pick him up to go really slow. If we have music, slow it down, or if we have lighting, potentially lower the lighting, if we're able to get a spotlight on him. But with our equipment, I don't think we will be able to. But I feel like that would make it a lot more effective, and every time we go into his head, have things slow down, have it get a little bit darker, just so we have this kind of thing that keeps coming up, kind of a motif almost, that keeps coming up to reinforce in the audience's mind that that is what's going on. So they don't watch it thinking, oh, did that actually happen, or was that just in his mind? So I think we definitely need to come up with a way of making it very obvious what's what. And then the bit here, just as the train starts, we all do a very over-exaggerated kind of movement altogether. When I watched it, it just seemed a bit too big. It should just there, especially because with me in the middle and then Joel and Bruce, we all did it kind of small, but then Maya and Peter on the right hand side, they did quite a big jump, and I feel like we kind of need to come to a mid-ground between that. So instead of either we all go small, we all go big, or we kind of find a middle ground. And I feel like we either go small or big, because a mid-ground wouldn't work very well, I don't think, in a frantic style. Because if you go big, then it's very obvious that it's fake, but it shows to the audience what we're trying to show. And therefore it's in kind of a frantic style, I guess. But if we do it kind of in a small way, then it makes it a lot more realistic. But I feel like to go with a frantic style, we'd have to go big. So we'll have to go through that, sort it out, and see what happens. So here, Bruce, playing the policeman, he says to Christopher, "Park yourself." And looking at it, I feel like the way they had it in the real thing was Christopher to actually look like he's kind of pretending to be a car, I guess, and parking himself in the chair. I feel like we definitely need to put that into it to kind of reinforce Christopher's character and how he acts within the piece, because just kind of watching him sit down after that's been said, it's not very effective. So this bit here, it's all about Christopher coming out of his environment and going into his head and talking about it all. I think the tech will definitely help it when we eventually get around to it. And here it's meant to be kind of like a blackout, and he's got a torch on the end of his stick so he can highlight who's talking. And that's why he's kind of going around pointing at people's faces so that only they're being able to be seen. But I also feel like Joel Christopher needs to have a light as well, because if he didn't, he's still talking through a lot of it, and it doesn't look, I don't think it'll look that effective when we actually do it. So we'll have to try it with the tech if we're going to do that for real and see how it looks. Whereas here, when he starts talking properly and he's the only one talking, Bruce then gets the stick and puts the light on him. I think that movement would be better if he was to go a lot lower and a lot more kind of horizontal. And then I feel like we just need to make this whole section a lot smoother, with him kind of walking about this bit especially. I think partially he needs to get more comfortable doing it, but also just make it a bit quicker, I guess. And then this bit with sound, because we're all placing chairs, it's quite loud and you can't always hear Joel if he's talking over it. So either we make it quieter, or he makes sure not to speak during that section. We all put the chairs down together. And then this bit with the running shoes bit, when you listen to it with sound, it's very loud and you can barely hear what he's saying. I think this bit really with Maya, because she has the chair right over her head, whereas a lot of us kind of do little movements. We need to find a middle ground between them as well. And then going back into it, obviously we'd have lights come back up and everything go back to normal. And people slowly change positions throughout to show that time's passed. So I think overall the beginning section of the train is quite good. I feel like we've got all the basic ideas sorted that we want, but we just need to go over them a lot to make sure they're completely solid, we all know what we're doing, and it looks good, as well as just the ideas being there. Because at the moment, it's all very rough, and it's not as effective as I want it to be, because acting in it, it feels like it'll look amazing as soon as you watch through it. But then actually going back and watching it, you kind of realise that while you kind of get the ideas that we're trying to show, it's not nearly done as well as it should be and could be. So I feel like we need to take a lot of videos in the future of every time we adapt things, just so we can watch them back, see what's going on, and try and get as much feedback from other people as possible who don't know what's going on and hasn't been part of the process of making it. So here, when we're making the toilet section for Christopher to go into, I think that transition's alright. Like, it's fairly smooth and swift, but I don't think it's very obvious what's going on. Because while we have some sound effects, it's quite confusing, especially with Bella moving the chair around. I feel like some people may say it's accurate of a train toilet, but then it's also, it doesn't really show what's going on. And while a few of the lines beforehand may have added in some context for it, it's just a bit messy. And then this bit here we need to work on as well, because obviously the chair got tipped over. It's all very slow. We don't really know what we're doing in this transition. So I feel like we definitely need to work on it to get that a bit smoother. And then we need to make this bit a lot better as well, with Joel getting into it. So either we create it around him, which might work quite well, just so that all the chairs are in the right place and they can't fall over. And then afterwards it's just some people coming in to pick up the chairs, which I kind of acted as bags and a reference to quite a bit, so I feel like the audience definitely understand that those chairs are being used for multiple things. Overall, I feel like as a first full run through, it works fairly well, and while we don't always know what's going on, I feel like we'll definitely get it. The ideas that we've come up quickly work well, we just need to go through them a lot more. But the little bits that I picked up that I think we need to change, like going into the train and kind of making it with the chairs, that needs to be done in a more frantic style, I think, just so it looks more effective to the audience. It also avoids a blackout halfway through, which is a bit unnecessary, I feel, especially for Frantic Assembly, because I don't think they use many blackouts. And the beginning of the script says the scenes should just run on from each other and you shouldn't be able to distinguish them. So having a blackout in between some of them isn't the best idea to follow the script with. So overall, the things we need to kind of go over is making the train a few of Christopher's character points and the way he speaks, and just kind of running over it enough that it gets quite slick. But I think it's quite effective.